Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Håkan Bruvel. So in today's video I'm gonna answer a question from you guys. So the question that I got says this. What would you say is the best beginner mode? I mean aside from P. And P mode is program mode, and that is where the camera is handling ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. And I think that is a great beginner mode, because when we start out on photography, we just want to take images and not care about anything else, because we just want to capture those special moments that we see, and we don't want to bother with what ISO we're using, what shutter speed should we be having, and should we have a big aperture or a small aperture to have everything in focus, or do we just want to have a single subject in focus. So I think P mode is a great way to start out when you are beginning photography. But if you have been taking images for some times, you may want to move from program mode and to a different mode. So what mode do I think is the best? Well, you really only have two modes, and that is aperture priority or shutter speed priority to choose from, if you don't want to go fully manual, which may be a too big step if you're just moving from the program mode. But which mode you should be using really depends on your image. To keep it really simple, we can say that you should be using, I really don't like to say should, because there are no rules in photography, but I think it's a great way to think. If you have movement in your image, I think you really should use shutter speed priority, because with shutter speed priority you can freeze your image and your movement. So let's say you want to photograph a subject that is moving in a fast speed. Then you want to really capture that subject and have it like sharp and in focus. Then you want a really high shutter speed. But if you like to simulate the movement in your image, then you want a really slow shutter speed, because shutter speed determines how long it takes for your camera to take that image. So if you have a really high shutter speed, then your camera is really fast on taking the image. If you have a slower shutter speed, it will take a bit longer for your camera to take that image. Shutter priority, that mode is really good to use when you have movement in your image and you want to control that movement. Now, aperture priority is another good mode to use, but that mode is better. Well, it's not better, but it's more convenient to use when you have static images. So let's say you have a subject that doesn't move, and you want to have full focus on that subject, and everything around it should not draw any attention to it. Then you can use aperture priority instead, and you can use a big aperture to really draw attention to your subject and keep everything out of focus that is behind it. But you could also have images where you want everything to be in focus. Then you need a much smaller aperture. So that is a great way to control how you want your viewer to look at your image. Do you want one single object to have focus? Well, then you have a big aperture. If you want everything in focus in your image, then you want a smaller aperture. So does this mean that you never should use shutter priority on a static image? Of course not. You can use shutter priority on a static image, and you can use aperture priority on images with movements. There are no rules, but if you are just starting to try out these modes, then I would suggest to try to keep this in mind, that if you have movement, then you might want to use shutter priority. If you have a more static image, then you want to use aperture priority. But I think the best advice I can give you is just try them out. Don't be afraid to get a bad image. If you get a bad image, then you just try again and see what happens. So like, you put your camera in shutter priority mode. If you can, set it on a timer and walk past your camera and put it on high shutter speed. See what happens. Then set it on a slow shutter speed and try again. See what happens. Try to analyze your images and see what the different kind of modes does for your image. Same with aperture. Just try them out and see what happens. That is the best way to learn your camera and see how the images respond to the different modes. So the best mode to use if you don't want to use the program mode really depends on what you want your image to be. But if you don't want to go fully manual, which I know can be a bit scary, it was scary to me when I first tried it out, then your best bet is aperture priority or shutter speed priority. And yeah, it really depends on what you want for your image, which modes of those two you want to use. But as I said, just try them out and see what kind of images you can get. If the image comes out wrong, just try again and take a new image. So that's all for this video. I hope it have given you some valuable information. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section down below, and I will answer them as soon as I can. Otherwise, give the video a thumbs up if you have liked this video, and also please consider subscribing to my channel. That means a lot to me. And then I hope to see you in the next video. Okay, bye.